On the 10th of December 2020, Cyberpunk was finally released on PCs and consoles across the world. For many of you, you'd have had it pre-ordered and preloaded onto your system, waiting for that time where you could finally play the game, only to find out that it was full of bugs, glitches, and holes. But since then, what's actually changed? You get the point. If you were an early adopter of Cyberpunk, you'll have seen all the bugs and the glitches in all their glory, and you'll see all the improvements CD Projekt Red have done throughout the year. If you're on the fence about it and you didn't pick Cyberpunk up in the Black Friday sales, Ryan has compiled a video on the consoles and the PCs. That way you can have an informed decision about where the game has come and where it is now. Not only graphically, but for system enhancements and stability as well. Now, I have to admit, for me, Cyberpunk 2077 still isn't completely 100%, but hopefully in the quarter of next year, patch 1.5 is going to fix that with the next gen update and stability improvements as well. But that's enough from me. I'm going to pass you on to Ryan.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate the warm welcome back to Deconstructing the Game. It's been a really fun but grueling month getting caught up on my own 2 channels, and I'm really glad to be back here and chipping in on this video, which I feel is really important. Although we are jumping on the bandwagon of doing one of these How is Cyberpunk 2077 After a Year videos, I feel like at this point there are a lot of really strong and entrenched opinions about this game that you're going to see if you're considering buying it for the first time or picking it up again. I hope to help you reconcile those with your decision to pick up this game by demonstrating a bit of what this game was like on some platforms when it launched, and comparing that to the current state of the game, and also demonstrating what I think represents some of what people are talking about when they would describe this game as being, the absolute worst unplayable thing they've ever seen, or when, on the other hand, PC players recently are talking about how they've experienced a graphical downgrade for the benefit of console users. So I'm hoping to kind of cash in a little bit on the little bit of credibility I hope we've earned for being fair and objective about this game, to just kind of try and show you what some of these people are talking about, and also demonstrate and explain if this stuff is platform specific, if it's stuff that was at launch that's been fixed, and realistically what you can expect playing this game now across various platforms on the current patch version. In order to do that with due diligence, I had to go into territory that I have never experienced before in this game, and that is to experience the unpatched PS4 version where most of the horrific clips that you've probably seen on the internet were captured. And after doing so, I have to say that I have a lot more empathy for some of the opinions that I've seen stated about this game, because it is night and day different than the experience that I had playing it at day one on PC. My experience was entirely playable. Most of the bugs and glitches that I experienced were mostly hilarious rather than game-breaking. Playing this on PS4 unpatched is one of the most ridiculously bad gaming experiences I've ever had. I went through the prologue and a little more, and honestly, all I could really do was compile my own sort of Cyber El Bagato compilation, so let's just get into that so that all of you can also share a little more empathy for those poor people that experienced this day one on a base PS4 console. When comparing it side by side with the current version on PS4, it's really obvious to see the differences in dynamic resolution, frame rate, delay in animations. It's overall what I would call a playable experience for the standards of the console at this point, versus what does not meet any definition of a playable experience in the original launch version of the game. It's not just a matter of raw performance though, as a lot of lighting and graphics effects are just completely missing or bugged out, and make scenes that are supposed to be atmospheric completely just hideous to look at. On top of that, there are any number of completely broken things like character animation during phone calls that just add to the terrible impression you get playing this game. I made this little highlight reel of just the worst ones from the very first hour of the game. For starters, in character creation you're greeted with this bugged out lighting that makes it really hard to choose anything. The picture cut out completely for a few seconds at one point, and then restored without the game crashing, and it wasn't the capture card of the PlayStation. I guess it just got tired of rendering video frames for a bit. Then, I had this already destroyed vehicle continue chasing me. Yeah, that's amazing. The opening montage was so full of ugly, I had to just pick a few of the best ones. Scanner descriptions are all over the place, right down to Jackie appearing as a generic Valentino's NPC. There were also just any number of cases where things happened that were just sloppy and immersion breaking, like this naked guy appearing in the middle of the room instead of in the bathtub full of ice, or Jackie driving with no hands. And if you were somehow still able to find a sense of immersion, there are T-posed people around every corner to destroy it for you. I'm sorry if that brought up painful memories for anyone who experienced it, but my point in showing this is not just to show that some of the worst opinions you've heard about this game are entirely true if people played it on the PS4 version at launch, but also showing how much it has truly drastically improved on those base platforms since the game originally released. I have to say I was very impressed with the progress made in the base PS4 version, and I actually found it so playable that I played through all of Act 1 and a little further on the patched version. And my view of it, now some people are going to disagree with this strongly, but by a fair standard of what I feel you can really expect on consoles of this age and a game of this scale, I feel like it's reached a pretty playable state. And although the game will probably never reach what people, including CD Projekt Red themselves, may have believed they could achieve on these consoles, when giving it a fair comparison to large-scale games on aging hardware, like for example games in the past like Half-Life 2 on the original Xbox or The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on the PS3 and Xbox 360, this is the best I really feel you can expect of a game like this running on this hardware. Now that's not to say that CD Projekt Red might not be able to kind of sand down a few more rough edges and eke a little bit more performance out of the PS4 and Xbox One, but by any reasonable standard of what games run like on 7-year-old hardware, this is pretty playable, I have to say, and I really didn't have any trouble or bad experiences playing through the current PS4 version for a good several hours into the game. Now that's just my view. I of course can always go back to the PC version and just continue playing, but having played the Xbox Series X version, the PC version, and the base PS4 version all on the current patch level, I really feel like it is a pretty decent level of performance, stability, all of the above, when compared to other systems and what could honestly be achieved on a PC that you could buy for the price of those consoles right now, because that is another thing to consider, that sure, on a great gaming PC, this game runs fantastic, but if you don't have a great gaming PC, it may take a lot more than it would cost to just go out and buy yourself a PS4 in order to play this game really at all. When we move over to how these same versions run on the new gen hardware, I have to say it's more of a double-edged sword than a best of both worlds. The reason for that being that these versions have always run pretty close to their target frame rates and with relatively good stability on these systems because they're basically running the same settings as the PS4 and Xbox One with only slight enhancements. So it's running at a lot lower settings than the systems are probably capable of, and if having the absolute best graphics that you can is important to you, you would probably want to wait until the next generation patches come out some point next year. That being said, running at a nice solid 60 frames per second can be pretty hard to achieve even with a decent PC and takes a fair amount of tweaking, so being able to just plug this game in right now and play it, especially buying it at a pretty inexpensive discount price, you may still want to consider playing it now on the Xbox Series consoles and the PS5. It still does look pretty good, even when compared to PC hardware you could buy for about that same $400 or $500, and it's a really stable, playable, pretty good looking experience, even again without any significant upgrades over running it on the earlier generation consoles. The biggest difference in experiencing this game really comes down to if you have the option to pick up the PC version, which I would highly recommend versus the console versions if you do have a decently capable PC. Beyond the PC version running better all around since launch, you also have the option of adding mods, which can take this game from a very nice looking game to outright gorgeous, especially if you have a PC much better than mine and you can turn on RTX effects. Beyond just the performance and visuals, there are also all sorts of mods that can change or improve just about any aspect of the gameplay that you may take issue with. So really, I feel, especially compared to the other PC games that are available this holiday season, and considering the discount prices that Cyberpunk 2077 has been going for recently, I really feel like it's a pretty good PC game for your money, just on all objective standards. It runs pretty good, it looks pretty good, and especially with mods, you can really turn it into a lot of the game that you want, regardless of what CD Projekt Red has done, or how much they intend to change in the future to meet players' expectations. Before I wrap up in my conclusion though, there is something I wanted to address, and that is the idea that basically the PC version has experienced graphical downgrades for the benefit of the consoles. Now, I've played pretty much every version of this game since it launched, and I've also now had the opportunity to compare between a base PS4, an Xbox Series X, and a PC with fairly moderate specs. And from really looking at this side by side and comparing version to version, I have to say that it's not that simple, and that idea is just feeding into more animosity, honestly, between PC and console users. You can see a pretty good example of what it looks like, how CD Projekt Red has been kind of experimenting with the object calling, level of detail scaling, things like that to try and get better performance out of this game. And while yes, this definitely helps with performance on the base consoles, it's arguably one of the weakest parts of the game engine that just doesn't work very well in general and wastes resources on your PC as well. And although there have been what could be perceived as downgrades while they mess around with it, it's not as simple as just cranking settings up and down. And CD Projekt Red is kind of messing with some stuff under the hood that it may just have some growing pains before they get it right. So I've created a really good example here of showing you how bad this can look, but I just want to explain that this is not as simple as them just cranking down a slider, otherwise we would just be able to fix it in the configuration file. This is them doing deep tweaks to try and get the game running better, and it did honestly look a lot better on PC a few patches ago, but it's also the sort of thing that they're likely to get ironed out, so I feel it's pretty unfair to judge the game solely based on that, when you can see it really does run pretty well overall, and besides these weird situations where it's very blatant, it's really not all that bad when you're just driving around at high speed and not paying attention to it. As I wrap up here, I want to be just totally clear that this is not a verdict on the game taking into account pre-release expectations, the experiences of what it's been like playing it over the last year. This is just for right now, for the price it's generally going for, and versus other games that are available. Should you pick up Cyberpunk 2077 and give it a shot? And I think the answer to that is yes. Now, granted, I personally have put hundreds of hours into this game, not playing it mostly in the traditional manner, though I have played through the game twice completely. And I obviously have had a ton of fun with this game, but that was mostly making these videos. Just as a game experience, I feel that it's honestly better than average for a game of this type. I play a lot of open world action adventure games with RPG elements. They range a lot in quality. I play Assassin's Creed games, I play Elder Scrolls games, and just from the games of this general variety that you would play, Cyberpunk 2077 is a pretty good game. I definitely enjoyed the side missions and kind of making my own entertainment more than I did the main plot, but that's the kind of gamer that I am. I usually want the game to just shut up and let me go nuts, rather than wanting to listen to an amazing narrative. A lot of folks really do like the narrative of this game, and those opinions are definitely out there, in addition to people who just couldn't stand it. I fall somewhere in the middle on that, but I would not say in any way that this is a terrible action and adventure game compared to all of the other ones that I've played from good to bad. I hope overall that was a pretty fair and objective view, and that the video examples I used pretty clearly show what I'm talking about and give you a realistic idea of what to expect from playing this game across various platforms now. For between $10 and $30 US, I definitely feel it's worth a buy. I'm Ryan, Thank you for watching Deconstructing the Game.